Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Her silent howl. Synopsis. Celeste is the alpha female of the Sky Moon Pack. Her parents were murdered when she was just 8 years old by the Blood Moon Pack. For 11 years, she existed as an Omega despite having alpha blood coursing through her veins. Deceiving others about her age, status, and diminished abilities, she led her life aiming to safeguard the surviving members of her parents' pack while keeping her true identity a secret. At the full moon celebration for the daughter of the Blood Moon Alpha, Celeste's deceit shatters when she discovers that Alpha Marcus, one of the attendees, is her mate. Joining the Crescent Moon Pack with her mate transformed Celeste's life, but as the reality of her past starts to emerge, she and Alpha Marcus find themselves in a struggle for her life and the fate of her people. She reveals the mystery behind the catastrophe that trails her Aztec heritage. Celeste and Marcus will face adversaries that are more formidable than an ordinary avaricious werewolf. Will the connection between Celeste and Marcus be sufficient to aid them in overcoming the challenges that await? Accompany them on their quest to amend the injustices of the past, their present, and secure their future. Episode 1. Prologue. Celeste POV. 11 years ago, I pushed through the chaos of the crowd. I could hear someone screaming my name, asking me to stop. I couldn't. I needed to see for myself. I had felt the break of the connection through the mind link, but I needed my eyes to confirm what my heart refused to accept. It couldn't be him. He was invincible. I made it to the front of the crowd. As I pushed past the last of the crowd, my knees gave way at the scene in front of me. The tears running down my face. In front of me stood the Alpha of the Blood Moon Pack looking at my mother, holding the head of my father. I felt sorrow and anger. I tried to get up and push forward but was grabbed and pushed behind my father's gamma. You can't, Celeste. He can't know it's you. He mind-linked me. I swallowed a sob and held onto his leg with all of my might. I could still see my mother on her knees crying. Alpha Jeff was laughing, kicking my father's head like a hacky sack. Your mighty Alpha didn't stand a chance, Luna. Your pack now belongs to me. You belong to me. He smirked and laughed again. My mother looked over the crowd of our pack. My father had been challenged, and by werewolf law, what he said was true. We now belonged to the Blood Moon Pack. Her eyes made contact with mine. I could see that her heart was shattered. Alpha Go Off pulled my mother up by the arm and squashed her to his side. I have failed you, my people. I'm sorry, I heard her say over the pack mind link. As Luna, she could project to everyone in the pack at once. Still looking at my eyes, her breath hitched. I love you, Celeste, my little piece of sky. I hope you can forgive me one day. Don't let them know how special you are. Don't look pequeña, little one, she said only to me. My gift pulled me forward then, and I saw a flash of future. But there wasn't enough time to prevent it. I saw the same image of what my gift had shown me play out in front of my eyes. I sobbed as I saw my mother grab the knife from Alpha Go Off's waistband and flash it across her throat. A pain burst forth in my head. I buried my head to the leg that was holding me up. I heard the Alpha's roar, stupid. He kicked the lifeless body of my mother over my father's. Grab all the unmated females and baby males. Kill the rest, he screamed. I heard the snarls of his warriors and the screams of mine as his orders were carried out. I was lifted and carried through the crowd. He didn't stop until we reached the cliffs behind the pack house. I could still hear the screams of my pack as they were ripped to shreds. Look at me. My father's Gamma, Lucian, said. He shook me a little when I didn't obey. Look at me, little Celeste, he said urgently. I looked at him. I can't take you with me, little one. I don't know if I'll make it out of alive. You have to lie. You have to lie about who you are. You understand? He said. I have to lie. I said. What's your name? He asked. If they ask you, what is your name? I don't know, I said, crying again. All I wanted to do was wake up from this nightmare. Your name is Celeste Pierce. You are the daughter of deceased Gamma, Lucian Pierce. Say it. My name is Celeste Pierce. My daddy was Lucian Pierce. Daddy's G Gamma of Alpha Cori, I said. Good, he said, giving me a hug and a kiss on my forehead. I would be honored to be your dad in name, he said. I have to go, little one. I will look for you. You hear me? I will find help and look for you. I will get you out. I want you to repeat what I said over and over until it feels natural, okay? Until you no longer want to say your daddy's last name. You can't let them know who you are. Bad things will happen if they know. Promise me, Celeste, promise me you will say the right words. He said. My name is Celeste Pierce. My daddy was Lucian Pierce, Gamma to the Alpha, I said. He gave me another tight hug. Good girl. I will find you. Flourish and live, little one, he said, and I saw in horror as he jumped off the cliff. He shifted halfway through the jump and dropped into the river. I heard a yelp as he hit the water. I stared for what felt like hours waiting for him to resurface, but I saw nothing. I sobbed and fell to the ground, curling into a ball. My name is Celeste Pierce. My daddy was Lucian Pierce, Gamma to the Alpha, I said. My name is Celeste Pierce. My daddy was Lucian Pierce, Gamma to the Alpha, I sobbed into the night. My name is Celeste Pierce. My daddy was Lucian Pierce, Gamma to the Alpha, my name is Celeste Pierce. My daddy was Lucian Pierce, Gamma to the Alpha, my name is Celeste Pierce. My daddy was Lucian Pierce, Gamma to the Alpha. After what felt like forever, I passed out on the edge of the cliff, not waking until I heard footsteps coming near me and feeling someone pick me up. Celeste POV present, flourish and live, I hear the whisper in my head as I wake. I scoff, trying to clear the invisible cobwebs from my brain while I scrubbed my face. Well, one of two is the best I can do, Uncle Lucian. I look at my reflection carefully. I should be darker, but my skin had been deprived of sun for so long, I now looked pale and my skin looked washed out. I gather my unruly hair up into a bun and look at my pale reflection in the slab of metal I had used as a mirror for about 5 years after the Alpha's daughter took mine. Alpha's daughter, I thought. Technically speaking, I was an Alpha's daughter. The only daughter of the deceased Lunabella and Alpha Cori. Once the rulers of the peaceful Sky Moon Pack. Alpha Jeff had been obsessed with my mother. He challenged my father for her. Although my father was a peaceful man, he'd fought valiantly to protect my pack and my mother. Despite his efforts, he was not strong enough to defeat the cruel and ruthless Alpha of Blood Moon Pack, and so many of us were slaughtered. I still remember being found by the edge of the river. Being asked my name. My father's Gamma was not technically my uncle, but over time I've come to call him so. He was what saved me, I thought, remembering the conversation between the Alphas, Beta and Warriors as they carried me, thinking I was still asleep. This better be the child. I can't believe we still haven't found her. How hard is it to spot the Alpha's pup? It will be a spoiled brat with zero knowledge of the world. The Beta hissed. I don't know, boss. This one doesn't look like an Alpha pup. She's small for a 10-year-old. This looks like an Omega or something. When I went before the Blood Moon Alpha, I had to fight hard to control the anger as I stared at the monster that killed my parents. What's your name, pup? He asked. Celeste Pierce. What rank are your parents and how old are you? He asked. I looked down hoping he wouldn't notice my eyes. I had my father's deep blue eyes. Something in my head screamed at me that he would make the connection if he stared at them long enough. I'm 7 years old. My daddy was Gamma Lucian Pierce, I said quietly. I didn't know the Gamma was mated, he growled. My mommy died at childbirth, I said. I didn't know where that idea came from. It was as if I had someone whispering me the answers he wanted to hear. Take her to the pack house. She'll be an Omega servant. Maybe once she gets her mature, we can get something for her or at least have some fun. He smirked at his men. One of them dragged me over to a group of other children that were crying and holding each other. All of us orphans now. From here, I could still see my father and mother's lifeless figures on the training arena. Hundreds of bodies littered everywhere around them. All men, male children, and mated women. At the same time, I could hear the cries of the unmated females all around me along with many grunts of the men raping them, claiming their prices. I heard one of the men howl in pain and then a scream of a woman as he beat her senseless. Don't damage the merchandise. I heard the Beta scream. They'd sent all of us little ones to work at the pack house. In the 11 years since, I'd had basically become a slave. Although legally speaking, they were no such thing as slaves, we were not paid, we were starved, beat and molested. We had to cook and clean for the warriors and the ranked families. But time was running out. Out of the 40 children that had been taken from the remains of my pack and sent to the pack house, several had started to go missing as they reached 19. There were rumors of them being raped and murdered, or banished. It was always after the next full moon. The ones that found mates left the pack house, the ones that didn't were the ones that disappeared. I had a feeling that once the Alpha was sure his warriors had a chance to get a mate, then he would cast them out to become rogues. They were never seen again. I looked in the reflective surface. Thanks to the fact that they starved us, I was too thin and too small. It was easy for them to believe I was only 17. That I was yet to get my wolf. I had bought myself an extra year and a half. I shifted in secret, letting Kara, my wolf, get strong. Right, we're strong, Kara smirked in my head, we're destined for greatness, you know. I would settle to be destined to live past next year. I scoffed. Soon, Celeste, soon we will make them all bow down to us. I swear this to you. Sure, sure. Let's just keep practicing for that backup plan. We need to get out of here before they discover you or realize I'm not mated to anyone here. We need to get far away from here in case they kill us instead of turn us into rogue," I said, placating her. "I wish you would have more faith in us and our gift. Maybe then, we would be able to control it," Kara said as she went to the corner of my mind and lightly blocked me. I sighed. I didn't like it when she blocked me. She was my best friend. The only one that knew about my sight and how broken it was. I was never able to train it, so my premonitions would come only seconds before they came true and usually too late for me to stop them. It was frustrating, especially because they gave me splitting migraines after. Everyone thought I was weak and they weren't really wrong. My gift could cripple me, but thankfully, being basically a slave, no one gave a crap and I was not allowed to go to the pack doctor to get it looked at, so my secret was safe. I sighed again and tried to wash myself as well as I could. My small room was basically a half bath that no one used. My bed was under the sink and the toilet was on the other end of the room. The few changes of clothes and a wash rag were neatly hung from the side of the metal slab that I used as a mirror. The sink was broken, the tap hadn't worked in years. So I used a pot of water for washing. I fiddled with my raven black hair to make the bun secure and sighed, time to get to work. Celeste POV. It was only 4 a.m. The entire house was sleeping, but I preferred it this way. Blood Moon Pack wasn't all bad, but the pack house was reserved for the ranked family and mostly unmated warriors. Almost everyone in this house was cruel and heartless. The days where I could avoid seeing any of them by finishing my tasks before they awoke, were the only good days I could remember having. The rest were filled with beatings, spittings, groping. I could only thank the goddess that raping a minor was punishable by death even here and no one had tried yet. By werewolf law, a werewolf was only considered of age once they got their wolf. Another reason I was glad they thought I was younger than I am. My day starts the same as always, turn on all the ovens, start proofing the absurd amount of croissants, biscuits, and other baking required for the day. Clean the common areas while the proofing was taking place. One could confuse the warriors for werpigs as it was guaranteed to find bottles, plates, broken items, and occasionally even body fluids from ones that managed to drink enough alcohol to get themselves drunk. Werewolf metabolism was so quick that drinking enough to get drunk took talent and dedication. After cleaning, the baking went in the oven as I got the batches of breakfast ready. 3 types of eggs, bacon, sausages, hash browns, cut fruit, waffles, pancakes, toasts, shakshuka, bagels, spreads. They all went into commercial-style buffet bars on either side of the dining room area. Once breakfast and baking was complete, I would begin preparations for lunch and dinner. Today, that was marinating steak, peeling and cutting potatoes, slicing onions, slicing and prepping garlic bread. Starting and filling the giant rotisserie oven so that lunch would be ready in time. Cooking was always my favorite thing to do. Creating something delicious from the ingredients and hearing the positive comments on the food. Most of the other girls could barely manage to put together sandwiches, so it was up to me to get them set up for the other shifts. We had found over the years that this reduced the bad moods of Alpha Jeff and we could avoid some beatings. Occasionally, I was even allowed to experiment with new recipes. I was always on shift for special dinners. Alpha Jeff demanded it, and the girls were happy to help as long as they didn't have to do it themselves. Once my prepping was done and the kitchen was cleaned up, I could do whatever I wished with the rest of my day, as long as I was not needing to help another Omega if they were sick. I started to hear movement upstairs as the first of the warriors woke up, so I finished my cleaning quickly, pocketed a croissant and a couple slices of fruit and made it back to my room to clean up and nap. Celeste! Wake up! The Alpha has requested all the Omegas in the kitchen. Hurry! I groaned. When the Alpha spoke with the Omegas, it was usually to let us know that something was not done how the Luna and her daughter wanted, and one of us would end up with a beating. Occasionally, Sandra would cry to her father with lies about being disrespected for the fun of it, and everyone got a beating. I rushed to the kitchen while trying to smooth my bed hair. My curly hair was not easy to control. Nice of you two to join us. The Luna growled. We are having guests next week, Alpha Jeff growled. As you all may know, Sandra received her wolf 2 months ago. All unmated alphas, betas, and their unmated sons will be arriving for the full moon to see if they are mated to my daughter, as they are the ones worthy of being her mate. He puffed his chest proudly. I suppressed a roll of the eyes. Werewolves could only find their mate during a full moon. The full moon allowed the mate bond to snap into place under the moon goddess's light. This was also when the she-wolves were most fertile, so pregnancies were usually planned around a full moon. This made it extremely difficult for unplanned pregnancies, though not unheard of. Luna Luisa, the old Gamma's daughter, had managed to get the Alpha drunk enough during a full moon and seduced him. When it was found out that she was pregnant, his father's Gamma had tried to make him take responsibility. It is said that he was the young soon-to-be Alpha Jeff's first kill. Sandra was slightly younger than I was when Alpha Jeff took the throne and challenged my father for his pack and Luna. When my mother took her life, Alpha Jeff came back and took Luna Luisa as his chosen mate. The rumor was that although she was Luna, the Alpha took women to bed at any time he wished. It made me feel bad for the Luna, as a mate can always tell when the other is having relations with another. It is said to be painful and heartbreaking. I almost felt sorry for her, almost. Sandra was average looking but as rotten to the core as her parents. When she first shifted, people had been surprised at the below-average wolf she had been paired with. It was a dirty sandy brown with no unusual qualities. It wasn't fast, it wasn't strong. Sandra had been training with one of the Alpha's best warrior for almost 2 months, and it was rumored that not much had improved. She would make a weak and terrible mate. I could almost bet my life that none of the ranked members coming to visit would be her destined mate. Selene, the moon goddess, did not reward cruel wolves. Alpha Jeff had never found his destined mate. I had a feeling the moon goddess would never grant him one. A destined mate was said to complete a soul, enhance their power and abilities, and allow a pack to flourish and create a peaceful and loyal pack. The Blood Moon Pack, having no destined Luna, was ruled through fear and cruel punishments to anyone that dared stand against it. Its members were either as cruel as the Alpha, or too weak to stand up and right the wrongs. We will have a total of 25 unmated males. The Alpha interrupted my thoughts. You are to ready all 30 guest suites to accommodate any added high-ranking members that may accompany them. They arrive the night before the full moon. I want dinner to be ready. Breakfast, lunch, and dinners while they remain in the pack territory will need to be perfect. There will be a pack celebration dinner the night of the full moon to celebrate my daughter's mate. Spare nothing. Celeste, you are in charge of all meals during the duration of their stay. Give a list of the supplies you need to the Gamma. Cook to impress, anything less and you will deal with me after the visitors are gone. I bowed my head in submission at his alpha tone. It never really affected me the same as everyone due to having alpha blood myself, but I had learned to recognize it and pretend, yes alpha. Pick one other to help you. You will also need to stock the suites with snacks and drinks for our guests. Anyone else not picked, I still expect every single task to be done as usual. Any faults found during the visits will be dealt with harshly after the visitors are gone. Am I understood? Yes alpha. Was heard from everyone. Without another word, the alpha, Luna, and spoiled brat left the kitchen. I picked another girl I liked that was somewhat capable of following cooking instructions to help me the week of the visit, and then everyone returned to their duties for the day. I returned to my so-called room to finish my nap and begin planning the menu. I generally avoided the pack house during the day if I could help it. The servants in the house were only allowed leftovers and there were usually not a lot. Even though I cooked most of the food, I was still fairly underweight. When I started hitting puberty, my bosom didn't seem to care and blossomed a little too enthusiastically. This made me a target to the horny unmated warriors, and even some mated. I did my best to wear baggy clothes. There was a small garden I maintained for the Luna and tended to spend my afternoons there. It was beautiful and peaceful. It was generally used as the main location for all the parties and I would always weep when trying to fix the destruction made to the garden the morning after. The Luna truly didn't care much for it, but would use it as a point of pride with visiting Lunas. I was not allowed to work on the garden during their visit as she took full credit for the garden, so I would have to water at nighttime. It was something I didn't mind doing. In the rare instances when it coincided with a full moon, I could swear the garden was visited by the mood goddess herself. It was simply magical. Celeste POV. The week leading up to the full moon was one going down in the books as one of the worst I'd had since arriving at this forsaken place. We all had double duties as we cleaned, prepared, and planned for the nights before and after the full moon. I couldn't spend too much time in the garden, though I was expected to keep it immaculate for the party. Talk about unreasonable expectations. I was only getting 3 hours of sleep a night and as I had to spend all my free time in the pack house cleaning, I was not always able to avoid the groping and innuendos. I'd had 3 premonitions during the cleaning of the suites and I was not allowed to rest after getting hit by the migraines that tended to follow them. We also had to pre-pack everything that Sandra would be taking with her to her mate's pack. They were so sure that she would find her mate that night. The worst part was I was too exhausted to let Kara run free. She was mad at me, but was also exhausted from healing my exhaustion and migraines. I was having trouble controlling her as well. The more exhausted, the grumpier we both were and the less control I had over her. We needed to be careful. I could not afford to be found out. They would realize my lie and likely kill me. I was planning on running away before I hit what they thought was my 19th birthday. I had 1 year, 8 months, and 4 days. In reality, my 20th birthday was in 5 months. The only part I enjoyed over the week was planning the menu. It was only 5 or 6 meals to be planned. Dinner the night before the full moon, the 3 meals the day of, and breakfast and lunch for the stragglers the following day. Still, I enjoyed having no budget for the meals and letting my imagination run wild. Dinners would be different. The pack house would be ordering takeout for the warriors. We had set up a temporary tent and moved the buffet tables there. The normal dining room had been rearranged to sit a dinner party of about 40 people. High-ranking members and visitors only. The visiting guards would eat outside with the other warriors. That allowed me to make a proper multiple-course dinner on both nights. It would be an exhausting evening. I also had to plan canapés for the celebration to be held after the usual moon run/celebration for Sandra's mate. Maya and I had our work cut out for us as we would be the main ones cooking, but we had a plan. Big meals, followed by simple meals that could be mostly prepped beforehand, followed by complex meal. Everything would be okay. We just had to stick to our schedule and hope that people loved our food. Thankfully, the other Omegas would be in charge of serving, so we could dedicate ourselves solely to cooking. We had even tested out parts of the menu through the week. So far, I had heard no complaints. Aside from the groping, no one touched us for a full week. It was a change of pace as our bruises fully healed for the first time in a while. Every girl had at least one bruise that could be passed for a birthmark at this point. Alpha Jeff and Luna Luisa didn't want to have healing Omegas walking around with so many high-ranking werewolves about. I had heard Luna Luisa telling a warrior that she didn't need some moral compass up in her skirts about how they treat their servants. The day before the arrival of all the ranked visitors, the Luna surprised us all with 2 used sets of clothes for the duration of the visits. All the Omegas that worked in the pack house usually wore throwaway clothes we managed to fit in. All were worn past the point of being able to call it decent clothing, all were either stained or ripped. I was not super happy about this, as the new clothes were not baggy enough for me to hide my chest. I knew it would spell trouble after the visiting parties were gone. The day of the arrivals was here. I woke up early to get breakfast going. I looked into my blurry reflection in my makeshift mirror. Today's the day. Are you ready, Kara? I asked my wolf. Yes, I am. We've got this, she said. I felt my eyes turn black. A sign our wolves were front and center. Kara. Sorry, just excited. She said sheepishly. Marcus POV, I don't know why I let you talk me into this visit. We have more than enough on our plates at the moment. I should not be leaving the pack, I grumbled to Jillian as I started going through the outstanding papers that needed to be dealt with before my trip. Because we need a Luna and you need to get late already. You're getting grumpier by the day, Jillian, my beta laughed at me. I'm more than capable of taking care of the pack without a Luna. Besides, I don't want to be tied to the Blood Moon pack if I can avoid it. This is a bad idea, I should just cancel, I said, looking at my phone to see what time it was. Jillian snatched the phone out of my hand and I growled. You're going and that's that. The pack duties will still be here when you get back. You've gone non-stop since you took over the pack 4 years ago. You need a break. Even if you're not her mate, you just need a break, brother, he said. We need to see who his allies are. If the reports are true, we may be headed into a conflict atlas, my wolf said in my head. You're right. We need more recon, I agreed. Fine, but you owe me one, I said to Jillian. He rolled his eyes. I take it you're all packed and ready to go? I have to go grab my bag from my room. It's too bad Daniel isn't back yet. He enjoys this way more than I do. He's not due back until about a week after the full moon. He said he thinks he's close to something big, Jillian said. His eyes flickered to black and back at the thought of what Daniel was doing. If we weren't still trying to stabilize things in the pack, he would be right there with Daniel. The rumors that surrounded the Blood Moon pack were enough to make any decent wolf rage. The little we'd already been able to see for ourselves will make it hard not to separate Alpha Jeff's head from the rest of his body. You going to be able to control Otto while we're staying at the pack house? I asked. We can't afford to give ourselves away just yet. We still need proof. He knows. He will behave. He's not happy about it, but he knows what's at stake, he grumbled. I sighed, well, let's get this show going then. Maybe we hit the jackpot and find something to help us with this investigation. I signed the last of the documents and gave my assistant a last few instructions of things to accomplish while I was away. I went to my room and grabbed the suitcase that had been packed for me. I dragged my feet to the car waiting for me at the entrance of the pack house. I hated social gatherings, but Atlas was right. We needed information before we could take on the Blood Moon pack. I wasn't sure we could take them on alone. Our pack was getting stronger each day, but to take on the Blood Moon pack, we would need allies. To get allies, we needed proof. The Blood Moon pack didn't have a lot of unmated females. The Alpha had long ago culled anyone he thought could eventually become a threat to his fear-dominated empire. Most of his men found mates outside the pack, and for some reason, their offspring were rarely females. I like to think the goddess Selene did not wish that pack to exist. Only about 35% of their population had found their destined mates. The few females that were born to the pack eventually became chosen mates. The chances that I would find a mate there was low at least. I wasn't keen on finding a mate. I didn't need one. I was 25 years old. Much too old to not have found one. I looked for a mate once, but after what happened to my father shortly after my 21st birthday, I distrusted the bond. Only after he'd found his second chance mate, did I see any relief in his tormented eyes. I was thankful to the moon goddess for helping him find peace, but I also requested that I be spared from that pain. I avoided going out during the full moons. I only ever lead my own pack runs, but I could not refuse the request from the Blood Moon pack. There was too much at stake to risk it all. We will arrive in about an hour. We're running a little late, so we'll be there just in time for dinner. We at least won't have to deal with the oaf for long today, I heard Jillian confirm after a few hours on the road. We had been traveling for about 3 hours now. The summer sun was still shining bright. I wondered if the sun even shone inside that forsaken place. I couldn't imagine being a woman in a place like that. It must be unbearable. I'd never been there, but other alphas had mentioned how the females were treated by the males of the pack. It made my blood boil thinking about it. Despite everything my father went through with his ex-wife, respecting the mate bond was something that he'd taught me to cherish since I was a pup. How many pack leaders are coming? I asked. About 12, us included. Most with 1 or 2 ranked unmated males, Jillian answered. Sounds a bit desperate, I smirked. Sounds like he doesn't want to settle for anything below Gamma, Jillian grunted. I knew it struck a nerve. Marcus POV. The territory was big. Almost as big as ours. But while our territory was well maintained and full of life, animal, and werewolf, the Blood Moon territory looked as cruel as its alpha. A lot of dead undeveloped wilderness. After crossing the territory lines, it was still another half-hour before we actually saw any signs of civilization. The pack house was big. I knew they kept most of their unmated warriors in there, which were a lot. I saw a giant tent filled with warriors and food. There were a few young females running around refilling beverages and picking up discarded plates. I growled when I saw men pawing at their bodies as they passed by. I could see a few warriors that were sitting to the side. All seemed to be growling at the same disrespect. None seemed to want to get involved, nor did any of them seem to try to make conversation with anyone. They must be the guards of the other packs. I was glad to see when one finally punched a drunk warrior that was pawing a terrified girl as I pulled around to the front of the pack house. At least I knew they would protect the servants if they got too out of hand. As much as I wanted to squeeze the neck of the handsy warriors, I knew I needed to play it cool. 2 days. We just need to be civil for 2 days. We would be out of here first thing on the morning after the full moon run. My guard/driver opened our door. If they cross a line with the girls, you have my permission to beat them to a pulp. Call for me, I will make sure you're not touched. I trust your judgment, I mind-linked my 3 guards. They all nodded at me as they heard someone at the door. Alpha Marcus, welcome to the Blood Moon Pack. Everyone is sitting down for dinner. I'll escort you to the dining room and let the kitchen know you've arrived. A fairly small female addressed me with a bowed head. I took her figure in, she looked to be skin and bones. I sighed internally. I knew my conscience, my wolf, and the bigger picture were going war with each other the entire time I was here. Thank you, I said, following the small Omega to a giant dining room. There were 2 seats close to the middle of the room. Alpha Jeff, thank you for hosting us, I managed to say with a pleasant voice. I could feel my wolf growl in my head. Neither of us liked this man. Alpha Marcus. Glad you could join us. May I present the guest of honor for tomorrow and the reason you're here? My daughter Sandra. He motions to a girl to his left-hand side. I bow my head in her direction as she tries to shoot a sultry look my way. We sat in our tables and exchanged greetings with the rest of the men at the table. Everyone was already eating appetizers from plates scattered down the middle of the giant dining table. I took a bit of a few plates, though I must admit that it all looked pretty appetizing. I bit into a bacon-wrapped scallop that seemed to be topped with some sort of creamy substance on top and had to suppress a moan. The taste exploded in my mouth. Oh wow, I heard Jillian say as he bit into what seemed to be some type of egg roll. This is amazing. He motioned for me to try the one I'd loaded on my plate. He was not wrong. It wasn't a typical egg roll. It seemed to be some sort of Tex-Mex variation with black beans, cheese, chicken, and jalapeno. My eyes wanted to roll into the back of my eyes. I dug in then, not bothering much with the chit-chat except to agree with people that were praising the food. I managed to nab a few of the remaining egg rolls as the appetizer plates were taken from the table with a few disappointing grunts from the men at the table. Not that there was much left. I wasn't the only one that enjoyed the food. The main course was simple and yet I could swear it was the best thing I have ever tasted. It was a garlic butter chicken with Cajun spices, creamy mashed potatoes with a drizzle of the same chicken garlic butter sauce, green beans with bacon and Brussels sprouts. I noticed most plates were practically licked as they were picked up at the end of the course. I even heard a few wondering about seconds. I didn't blame them. In any other circumstance, I would have been running to the kitchen to see if I could lick a spoon. Alpha Jeff was puffing his chest at all the compliments as if he'd made it himself. I heard an angelic voice as a door opened. Make sure everyone gets a saucer of cream as people made their way into the kitchen. I was still staring at the door, hypnotized by such a delicate voice, when a plate was lowered in front of me. I resisted the urge to drool. There was the most delicious-smelling lava cake in front of me, with a tiny saucer of cream on the side and a couple of delicate raspberries on top. "You gonna eat that?" I mind-linked Jillian. "You bet you, I am. If the other courses are any indication of how good this is going to be, I can die a happy man after I lick the plate," Jillian responded. "I'm your alpha, I could make you," I taunted. "My loyalty to you has a limit and it appears to stop at lava cake," Jillian said seriously after taking a bite of his dessert. I smirked at him and then took a bite of my dessert. "Oh, I don't blame you. I'd kill me too." I didn't say anything else as I just kept eating dessert. Everyone seemed enraptured with eating the delicious lava cake. The last of the plates were taken off and everyone chatted pleasantly to each other. I could tell Alpha Jeff seemed to be getting drunker and drunker as time went on. The other pack leaders started to feel uncomfortable and one by one, they all started to excuse themselves and heading to their assigned guest rooms. It was also obvious that Sandra kept trying to flirt with some of the alphas. I wondered if she thought she could nab the role of chosen mate to an alpha as a backup plan in case tomorrow was a dud. I truly felt sorry for her mate. She wasn't ugly, but you could see there wasn't much between the ears and she was the daughter of the most disgusting person. I doubt there was much to like. "Please excuse us, it's been a long journey. We will take our leave and rest for tomorrow." My compliments to the chef, everything was impeccably delicious, I said towards the Alpha and Luna. We made our way towards our assigned guest suites. I smelled the most intoxicating smell of honey and strawberries and what I could only describe as a winter's night. Atlas stirred in my head and started wagging his tail. They must be getting ready for tomorrow's food, I thought, and kept going towards the room. We should try get some information from the kitchen staff tomorrow. Discreetly. They all looked pretty malnourished. We may be able to offer them sanctuary in exchange for information. I mind-linked Jillian as we reached our rooms. "I'll see what I can do tomorrow," he said. Celeste POV. I sighed as I settled down in my futon. The dinner was a success. Everyone seemed to enjoy the food. Some even asked for seconds. I massaged my feet. The best part was all of the girls managed to get at least some taste of the food. Whatever little leftovers from the appetizers, we ate. We split the last couple of entrees between all of us and even managed to get a taste of the lava cake. I was thankful for the help cleaning up the kitchen, though confused by the sudden whiff of an exquisite smell combination of pistachios, figs, and something I couldn't quite place. Almost like the smell of earth before a storm. I lay down on the futon and let sleep take me. I needed all the rest I could use. Tomorrow I had to cook breakfast for all the warriors and the guests, lunch, and then dinner and ending with the canapés for the party. It would be a grueling day. I woke up at 3:30 a.m., I went and knocked on Maya's room. She shared the small little room with 3 other girls. It was nicer for sure than where I slept, but I at least had privacy. She and another girl slept in the same bed. We started with the warriors' breakfast since that would just be the normal buffet-style breakfast that everyone was used to. We pumped out the croissants, sausages, bacon, eggs and biscuits. We'd pre-cut fruit the day before and had stored it for use this morning. After the warriors' breakfast, we began making the guests' breakfast. We'd left a card requesting a choice of breakfast from a set of options when we stocked their rooms with drinks and snacks. Maya went and rounded them up for us while I started several pans with sauces. Breakfast choices was between eggs Benedict, French toast, crepes, and a higher-end warriors type of breakfast, toast, eggs of choice, sausage, bacon, and hash browns. The tables were loaded with plates of toast, spreads, and fruit. After breakfast, we started baking fresh bread. The other girls delivered the plates just as before. One of the betas came around and was silently speaking to a few of the girls as they were running back and forth from the kitchen. I would see him from the corner of my eye while cooking. The girls would go pale and just shake their heads profusely. He started to approach me, but Luna Luisa came in and everyone scattered like roaches. Beta Jillian, how did you find your accommodations last night? She asked in a sickly sweet voice. Luna, everything has been impeccable. You sure know how to host a gathering, he said smoothly. Thank you, it's a lot of work organizing it all but so rewarding. Is there something you needed? Was breakfast not to your liking? I can have the help whip up something different if you weren't satisfied with your plate. She said, sending a glare my way as if I'd done something wrong. No. In fact, I actually came to see if I could talk your cook into making me another eggs Benedict. That sauce is the best I've ever tasted, he said, looking my way. Of course, Beta. Right away, sir, I said, not believing a word he said. I would have to ask one of the girls what he'd asked, but now was not the time. There was just too much work to be done. Thank you, he smiled at me and held his arm out for the Luna and walked with her towards the dining room. Lunch was simple, a choice of chicken Alfredo on angel hair pasta, Philly cheese steak on fresh homemade bread and, to add something different, fish tacos. This was the only meal that would be buffet style for the guests. We made about 13 plates of each dish and set them up along the dining room table. I noticed that all of the guests seemed to appear at once as if coming out of a meeting, though I'd like to think that they were just looking forward to what I had to offer. I quickly cleaned the kitchen and began preparing for dinner. On the menu for dinner were a few appetizers for the first course, caprese salad for the second course, beef Wellington with Madeira wine sauce, roasted Cajun potatoes, sautéed carrots, and parsnips for the main course, and ended the dessert course with a sampling of desserts. Cheesecake, apple rose puffs, Mexican custard, chocolate mousse with raspberries, and a last-minute addition of mini pistachio and fig tarts. I couldn't get the smell out of my head. I snuck a quick look as they were eating dessert. I smiled at the appreciative looks on everyone's faces. I caught a whiff of the same smell from yesterday and realized it must be someone's cologne. I closed the cracked door and went to start preparing the canapes for after the full moon run. The moon would start coming up in about 3 hours. It was the moment of truth for Sandra. Marcus POV. I wanted to go ask the cook to run away with me. I could imagine eating this all my life. These last 2 days were worth the trip just for the food. Putting up with Alpha Jeffs was irritating, but the moment I would put the food in my mouth, Atlas would just start wagging and running around like a mad wolf. For a grumpy wolf, he sure seemed to enjoy the cook's food. I looked at Jillian with a little bit of jealousy. He'd gone to see if he could find anyone willing to talk to us and came out with a second helping of Eggs Benedict. Now it was lunchtime and he was still eating like he'd missed breakfast. Lucky. Stop being mad, I got more food than you did. What else could I have used as a cover? He mind-linked me when he saw me look at him eating the Philly cheese steak. You could have shared. It's not like you got anything out of the girls, I said. Yeah, those girls look simply terrified. I don't think they believe we can protect them. The only one I didn't get a chance to talk to was the pretty cook. Pretty. Seems like a crime to be able to cook like this and be pretty at the same time, I said. Yeah, she's a cutie. Young. Probably not even of age. Curls that don't seem to end and some pretty remarkable eye color, Jillian said. Sounds like you're smitten, I teased. She is pretty, but not for me. I will wait for my mate. I could tell it wouldn't be her. You can tell without the full moon? I asked, genuinely curious. My mom always said you should be able to feel some sort of pull towards your mate, some sort of attraction. Full moon or not. They are chosen for you at birth, so it's always there. You can feel it to some extent. The full moon just helps the bond snap into place. Interesting, I could feel Atlas listening closely. His behavior lately was a little weird, but I figured he was just on edge from being in enemy territory. I don't think we're going to get anyone here to help. He's got everyone scared for their life, he finished. I sighed, yeah, I was afraid of that. At least we get 2 more outstanding meals out of this trip. I smirked. Yeah. I can't wait for dinner. Dude, you literally have lunch in your mouth right now and you're thinking about dinner. I laughed at him while taking a bite of my own fish tacos. They were so good. I was eyeing another plate that seemed to not have an owner. I know there were extras, so I chose a seat pretty close to one of the straggling plates in case no one jumped on it. And you're not wondering what's for dessert? He asked. I smirked. Thought so, he laughed. Alfred approached me then. I thought he would say something but he just smiled, nodded, and grabbed the plate of tacos. I gave him a low growl. He smiled wider and said, "Snooze you lose, Marcus. You shouldn't be so nice to the rest of us." I laughed, "Touché, my friend. Next time I'll be sure to challenge you for the extra plate. If it's by this same cook, I'll gladly accept a challenge to the death. I already asked for the lava cake recipe." He winked. "Be sure to email that over." I laughed again. "It's already in your email. Don't think I didn't see the look on your face when you ate it. You looked like you were in heaven," he smirked. "Looks like I owe you one then. Well, you can ask for the next dessert." I don't want seem needy, Rhett laughed. Deal dinner time came around. I couldn't believe the food they had for us. When the sampling of desserts came out, I was absolutely in heaven. Even more so when I suddenly caught that wonderful smell of honey, strawberries, and a winter's night. I looked down, sure that the smell wasn't coming from the desserts. I turned around to see the door to the kitchen swinging. Everything okay? Jillian asked. Yeah. It's fine. I thought I smelled something weird, I responded. After dinner, I got up and went to the kitchen. There was only one small girl there working on canapés for later. She looked rather thin. Hello, can I be of service, Alpha? She blushed. Alpha Marcus. Did you cook all this food? I said, looking at the canapés and thinking of all the food we'd just eaten. Even though I was stuffed, I was already salivating looking at all the food. Oh no, she laughed, I could never cook like this. I am just helping Celeste. She's the real cook. Oh, I said. Celeste. Even the name sounded as heavenly as the food, and where is she? I wanted to ask for the dessert recipes. Maybe my cook back home might be able to make something close to as good as hers. She had a headache and went to wash her face. I'll let her know and she can leave it in your room during the full moon run, she said brightly. Thank you, Maya, Alpha. Thank you, Maya. I guess I better be going. The moon is about to rise. Are you both not joining? Oh no, we don't have our wolf yet and we have to make the last of the food for tonight. I see. I said, surprised at my disappointment. Well, please let Celeste know that the food has been phenomenal. I wish my cook at home cooked half as good as her. No wonder Alpha Jeff seems to be getting a little bit round around the mid-area. I winked. She giggled. Celeste POV. I came back from the bathroom after the migraine started to hit. I had a vision as I was assembling the canapés. It confused me as I mostly saw Sandra looking down on me through a haze of red. Shifting usually helps get rid of the migraine, so I had gone to the bathroom to quickly shift as I couldn't risk shifting outside during the full moon. The smell of cologne that I had smelled earlier hit me in the face as I made my way back in, but I saw no one but Maya. My migraine receded slightly as I breathed it in. Oh hey, you missed Alpha Marcus, he would like the recipes for the desserts. I told him we'd leave copies of them in his room while they run. Alpha Marcus, so that is the name to the scent. I mulled over the name as I cooked more canapés. It had a nice ring to it. I'd barely had a chance to see any of the ranked members. There was so much cooking to do. I'd only met a few people asking for recipes. Something I'd gladly shared with all of them. I heard the howling of the wolves as the moon rose, a sign for us to go set up. I tried to ignore Kara's disappointment. I knew she would love to run during a full moon. It was supposed to be energizing and magical. I know we will get to run under the goddess's light one day. Kara said, sensing my guilt. You're the best wolf a girl could ask for, I said. We finished the canapés and Maya and I went to drop the food off at the outside tables. We could hear howling in the distance. I looked up at the sky and let the glow of the moon soak into my skin. All of the sudden I felt someone grab me by the hair and drop me to the ground. I looked up to see Sandra. I bowed my head, not knowing what I did. I quickly glanced to the side and saw Maya was also on the ground with Sandra's claws on her head. I wasn't sure why Sandra was targeting us, but I could heal faster than Maya. She didn't have a wolf, which meant there was only one thing to do. You can't come out to defend Kara, I said. I will try, but if it comes down to your life, screw the secret, she warned. I stood up when I saw Sandra approaching Maya. I didn't say you could stand up, you worthless. Sandra screamed and punched me in the face. I felt my orbital bone crack. Even if she wasn't that strong, she was stronger than my underweight body. I looked up and saw red. There was blood in my eyes. I stood up again. We didn't do anything wrong, I pleaded. I don't need you to do anything wrong. If I want to beat you to death because I wish to, I can. Your property. You're not worth the food you eat, she said as she rushed me. I felt a punch to my shoulder. The clavicle snapped. She slashed my stomach. Kicked me in the ribs. I am not sure I can keep healing you much longer, Celeste. I am exhausted. It may take a long time. Let me shift. Kara pleaded. No, we just have to hang in there, I said stubbornly. This was supposed to be my night. I was supposed to find my mate. Instead everyone is just talking about how good the food is. She screamed at me. She landed a kick in my chin and I felt my jaw crack. I wasn't moving on the ground anymore as I felt kick after kick. Then suddenly, I smelled pistachios, figs, and wet earth before a storm. I sat up slightly, wincing from the pain. I looked left, to where I could see a crowd arriving back from the run, shifting. My eyes glued onto a pair of grey eyes and I felt something snap inside, almost like a physical tether being put in place. Mate, Kara whispered, before the darkness took me. Marcus POV. I wanted to laugh at the face of shock and dismay from the Alpha, Luna, and their daughter as the moon rose. It seemed none of the leaders of the packs were her mate. I am not sure anyone was surprised, outside of them, but we were all doing a pretty good job of looking sympathetic. I saw Sandra turn from the stage and stomp away, likely to go cry in her room. The moon reached the peak and we all removed our clothing and shifted. I can't help but actually admire his lands under the full moon. The previously dead and uncared lands looked filled with wild magic under the full moon. My wolf was excited. He was an old soul and it was clear that he enjoyed his moon runs. I feel like something is happening. I think something is about to change, Atlas said as he ran faster. I didn't say anything. I felt the same way. I heard the alphas howl to turn back. As we were getting closer to the area where the party was taking place, I heard a woman shrieking like a banshee. I don't need you to do anything wrong. If I want to beat you to death because I wish to, I can. Your property. You're not worth the food you eat. This was supposed to be my night. I was supposed to find my mate. Instead everyone is just talking about how good the food is. She screamed again. We reached the clearing and we all saw Sandra kicking someone on the floor. I shifted and started running towards them. Maya was to the side with blood running down a gash from her face. I smelled blood, strawberries, honey, and the coolness of a winter's night mixed together. I looked at the woman on the ground. All I could see was the copious amounts of jet black curls shining against the full moon. I saw blood dripping from her chin. I saw her sniff the air slowly and sit up and look our way. My eyes met her eyes and I felt the bond snap into place. I heard her whisper something before falling over. My eyes turned black as Atlas took over. Mine, he growled. No longer under control of my body, I saw Atlas rush Sandra and backhand her backwards. I felt my beta run to my side as well as my warriors surround me as we bent down to inspect our mate. He gently pushed the hair from her face and roared. Her eyes were bleeding, I could feel a crack in her orbital bone. Her jaw looked broken and there were already bruises and swelling all over her face. Blood on her abdomen. Alpha Marcus, explain yourself, Alpha Jeff roared at me. Helping his daughter up from the ground. Your daughter was beating my mate. Atlas growled as I took control of my body and I picked up my mate and started heading towards where I knew the Packhouse Hospital was located. Bring Maya, she looks like she needs medical attention too, I mind-linked Jillian. I saw him walk towards her and gently lift her up and follow me. My warriors flanked us as we headed towards the hospital. That's impossible. She isn't even of age yet. How can she bond? Luna Luisa growled. Perhaps you need to pay more attention. Some of her injuries are healing. She clearly has her wolf. I spat. Where are you going? He demanded. To the hospital, I said, without turning back to them. The Omegas do not have hospital rights, Sandra shrieked. She can't be your mate. She's just trash. There were a couple of gasps from the other leaders of the other packs. I felt my eyes turn black once again and I let Atlas roar. We turned around. I felt our fangs elongate. You have committed crimes against my future Luna and have admitted to denying basic necessities to your Omegas. We will discuss the punishment for the transgression after my mate has received medical attention. If you try to prevent help being given, I will not hesitate to call the council. Maya and my mate are under the protection of the Crescent Moon Pack. Any attempts to hurt them will be considered a direct attack to my pack and a declaration of war. Who here will stand beside me? Atlas looked at the crowd. Many of whom were from the shift. Everyone but the members of the Blood Moon Pack stepped forward. This is ridiculous. Just wait until that piece of trash wakes. You will see how wrong he is and I will expect an apology from each one of you. Alpha Jeff screamed and he dragged Luna Luisa and his daughter into the house when he realized no one was on his side. Alpha Red stepped forward then, having put on a pair of shorts, handed me a pair. Atlas gave me back control. I gently shifted my mate in order to dress myself, not wanting anyone to touch her. You are sure, Marcus? He asked. I nodded. Then you have our support, he said. Thank you, my friend. I saw my beta put on a pair of shorts as well and then gently guiding a petrified Maya towards the hospital. She hesitated at the entrance. It's forbidden, she said. You won't have to stay here, Jillian said gently, looking at me. I nodded at her and saw her relief. You can leave the Blood Moon Pack. You are under the protection of Alpha Marcus and you will be allowed to join our pack. What is her name? My mate, I asked her. Celeste, she said. The cook? I asked. She nodded. We went through the double doors and noticed that for a few Omegas cleaning, the hospital was empty. I heard someone trying to push behind us while my warriors growled. Alpha, if I may. My name is Dr. Castle. I am the pack doctor. I can help. I nodded to my warriors and an elderly gentleman pushed through. This way please, he said as he hurried past me. I carried my mate to a room and laid her gently on the bed. I wasn't keen on having him touch her, but I knew she needed something I could not provide. I stepped to the side and sat on the chair by her side. After about 20 minutes of checking her over, he finally looked at me. She's got a broken jaw, several broken bones, including her clavicle, her left side orbital bone is broken but intact. I would imagine with the damage to her head, she definitely also has a concussion. I could feel no internal bleeding though and she already seems to be healing. I would imagine that you're correct and this woman has her wolf. She should be healing much slower otherwise. She will likely sleep for a couple of days as her wolf heals her. My eyes turned black then grey several times as I tried to restrain Atlas from losing control. I couldn't stop the growl that came from my throat. I want my guards at the doors at all times. No one is to come in or come out except for the doctor unless I say so. We will be remaining here until she's well enough to travel. Bring another bed in here for Maya. She is also under my protection. I would like some clothes and a pillow brought to me. I will remain in this room with her. I instructed my beta who was already mind-linking my warriors. He brought out his phone to alert our pack that we would be delayed. Yes, Alpha, he said as he left the room. I looked down at the woman in the bed. My mate. I never wanted a mate and yet the moment I saw her, I already felt the need to protect her and murder the ones responsible for her suffering. I sighed and held her hand. I heard Atlas whine inside my head, they hurt mate. I know buddy. But they won't hurt her anymore. We will make sure of it. I sat down next to my mate. Celeste. Her name was like a song. I inhaled deeply and let the smell of honey and strawberries and that cool winter's night calm me. She protected me, I heard a small voice say from the other side of the room. Pardon. I said. Sandra hit me first and then her. She was coming back to me, but Celeste stood up and took the attention away from me. I thought I had messed something up with dinner and then she started screaming about not finding her mate. I don't think we did anything wrong. I think she just wanted to take her anger out at someone, she sobbed. Do they do that often? Hit you for no reason? I asked. She nodded. They don't feed us enough. We're only allowed to eat leftovers but the warriors never leave us any, so Celeste always pretends to mess up the food just so we can all get some food. They usually beat her for it but we all know that she does it on purpose just so we have something to eat. I looked down at my mate, a sense of rage growing but also of wonder. She's a protector of the abused. Even though it caused more abuse to her. She will make a great Luna. Atlas puffed his chest in my head. And she cooks like a goddess, I told him. He smirked. Best food we've ever had. Even better than bunnies. We need to speak to Alpha Marcus. We need to settle the matter of his mate and the Omega. I startled awake. I had fallen asleep in the chair while holding my mate's hand. Let them through. I mind-linked my warriors. Jillian, are you close? Something is happening. I switched to my beta. I'm just coming through the doors. I thought I'd grab a couple of bagels for you. I have to warn you, they are nowhere near as good as your mate's food. These are barely edible, but I don't think anyone else knows how to cook in this place, he smirked in my head. I suppress a groan as the alphas walk into the room. Has the doctor confirmed that this Omega has no wolf? Alpha Jeff growled. Luna Luisa and Sandra were standing behind him. I am afraid that you're mistaken, Alpha. This young lady appears to have her wolf. Her healing is definitely consistent with that of someone with a wolf, and her pupils are black. The doctor spoke timidly, baring his neck in submission at the glare of Alpha Jeff. That's impossible. She is only 17, he growled. My eyes widened at the knowledge and looked down at my unconscious mate. I looked back at the alphas in the room. If she's 17, then she has an early wolf. I will not question the moon goddess' plan for my mate. She is the future Luna, and even if I have to wait for her to hit her legal age, she will be coming with me. Her and Maya, I said. She can't take her. Who will cook our food then? Luna Luisa whined. That is not my problem, nor is it theirs, I respond, disgusted that this is what her worry is. You can take her, but you won't take the other Omega. She's mine, Alpha Jeff growls. Watch what you say to a future Luna, Alpha Jeff, Alpha Red said. No one in this room will tolerate disrespect to a mate. Maya was part of the assault that your daughter inflicted yesterday. We all heard her say that she could beat them without cause. I would take all the Omegas in the pack house with me if I could, as I've noticed that they are all underweight and mistreated. I took a deep breath. However, I will settle for removing Maya from immediate danger that I believe she still poses. I have asked her to join my pack and she has agreed. Is this true, child? One of the other alphas asked. I could tell Maya was terrified, more so when a low growl escaped from Alpha Jeff's chest. All she could do was nod. Well, considering this is an underage Omega, I would usually say it's up to her guardians. Where are her parents? He asked Luna Luisa. She paled. She's an orphan. We are her parents, the Luna said, looking nervous. And we do not consent to her leaving, Alpha Jeff smirked. What happened to your parents, child? Come speak. My name is Alpha Troy and I won't hurt you. Alpha Troy was an older gentleman that was here not for a mate, but to accompany his beta. Maya looked at the pack leaders. It didn't seem like she was going to talk, when she looked at Celeste on the bed. Anger and determination replaced the fear in her delicate face. My parents were from Sky Moon Pack. They were killed the night the Blood Moon Pack challenged and killed our Alpha. We were forced to come here after. There was a chorus of murmuring from the other Alphas. We all knew the story of what happened to the Sky Moon Park. It was borderline murder, but the council had declared it legal. As there was no known survivors, all we had to go on was the story from the Alpha and his warriors. In this case, I think we can all agree that considering the animosity the Alpha's daughter has shown towards this child, that legal guardianship should shift to the Alpha of the Crescent Moon Pack. Anyone disagree? Alpha Troy looked around the room. No one objected. Very well. This is an unfortunate end to a very pleasant visit. I believe we will take our leave. Alpha Marcus, anything you need before we go? I shook my head. I will remain in this hospital with my beta and guards until my mate is well enough to travel. All I need is place for my guards to rest until that happens. Alpha Jeff growled but nodded. He grabbed his Luna by the arm and carried her out, their spoiled daughter stomping behind. Once I was alone with my beta again, I sighed and sat back down. I took a bagel and after biting it, made a face and spit in the trash. Maya giggled. I looked at her and she paled. Sorry, it's just that for the last 7 years, the only one that's been able to cook anything edible was Celeste. Don't expect any miracles from the rest. I laughed and looked at my beta. Order us something edible for lunch? I have a feeling we'll all end up with food poisoning otherwise. He laughed and I saw his eyes glaze over as he mind-linked one of our warriors. Done and done. Now, do we know how long it will take for the Luna to wake up? He asked. Doc said a couple of days at most. She looks better than last night at least. I stroked her swollen face gently, feeling the warmth from the bond on my hand. She stirred but didn't wake up. Even with all the injuries, I could already tell my mate was breathtakingly beautiful. I looked at Maya again. You did well. That took courage. She smiled shyly. I thought about what Celeste would do. I smiled. I can see you're already falling hard, Jillian smirked through the mind link. I roll my eyes but the smile stayed on my face. Celeste P.O.V. I could smell food, bleach, and that strange cologne of pistachios and figs and wet earth as well as other smells that were not as dominant. I tried to move my arm, but my side hurt, so I opened my eyes instead. I saw Maya with a group of men around a small table. It looked like they were eating and chatting amicably. I could tell we were in the hospital, but this room looked different than what I would expect it to look like. It was almost homey. There were comfortable chairs, blankets, and a laptop about. I felt the man with his back to me stiffen and turn. I was met with the most wonderful grey eyes. I felt Kara's eye contently in the back of my mind. She sounded exhausted. Are you doing okay? I asked with a little concern. I am fine. It just took a lot of energy to heal you. I just need a nap. Be nice to him, okay? I will try. You rest. The man stood up and approached me like a weary man waiting for the rabbit to be spooked. He was tall, at least 6'3" tall and muscular. The plain white t-shirt was tied around all the right muscly places. His broad chest tapered down to a small waist and I could almost see the V-line leading down into his jeans. Celeste? He asked gently. I looked back up to his eyes. He looked concerned. I saw his eyes glaze over and one of the warriors sitting at the table got up and left the room. My name is Marcus. Do you know where you are? He asked. Ho's hospital, I said. My throat was so dry, it was hard to talk. Marcus provided me with a glass of water. It soothed my throat as I gulped down the entire thing. Maya ran past him and gave me a hug. I was so scared you wouldn't wake up. You saved me. I patted her back awkwardly. I was not used to this kind of contact. I looked back at Marcus. He was smiling softly at me. I tried to return the smile, but I am not sure it came out as nice as his. Smiling was another thing I wasn't used to doing. I noticed the rest of the men then. They were all standing from the table. The food forgotten. You should keep eating. I didn't mean to interrupt, I said. They bowed their heads and stood to the side as the pack doctor walked inside. Good morning, Luna. How are you feeling? My head snapped around the room, looking for Luna Luisa. Celeste. Marcus looked at me with concern in his eyes. How are you feeling? My brows furrowed. I couldn't understand why the doctor had called me Luna. My head was still too muddled and it was giving me a headache, so I decided to think about that later. My head hurts, my side still hurts, and my jaw feels sore and I need to use the bathroom. I said honestly. Well, you have been sleeping for 3 days, so that's understandable. Can we help her to the bathroom, please? He turned to the warriors. 2 started moving to help, but there was a low growl coming from Marcus. I got it, he said, and the warriors immediately returned to the table. He walked over and lifted me like a child. I couldn't stop the blush that surfaced to my face. I could feel warmth and tingles at every point where our bodies touched. I took a moment to compose myself while in the bathroom. I'd never had that kind of reaction to any man. I washed my face and looked in the mirror. My hair was a mess, I still had some bruising around the base of my jaw. Suddenly, I flashed forward. I saw Marcus holding me to him. His hand in my hair. I felt a wave of heat burst from my core as I came back to myself. I felt the migraine burst forth like a train wreck. I stumbled out of the bathroom. I lost my balance and started falling face first, but I didn't hit the floor. Instead, I hit a very firm chest. I looked up and Marcus was holding on to me. He pulled me up and held me up. I felt the same heat spread from my core. His eyes darkened and his hand came up to my face and into my hair. Luna, what happened? Dr. Castle asked. Marcus lifted me up again and put me back in bed. Just got dizzy, I said, trying to get my head back to the present. I have a migraine. Alpha Marcus, Dr. Castle said 15 minutes later after doing an examination. I can't find anything wrong with her. She still needs rest to finish her healing, but she should be able to travel today or tomorrow. I looked at Dr. Castle then. Travel? Where am I traveling? Where am I going? I said, panicking. Can I speak with her alone, please? Alpha Marcus asked. Everyone shuffled out of the room. Mio looked unsure, but then Beta Jillian gently guided her out. Celeste, have you met your wolf? I looked at him and panic set in. They knew. Oh God, they knew. My eyes flitted from his face to the window. Celeste, it's okay. No one is going to hurt you. You know what a mate bond is, right? All I could do was nod. Suddenly he looked less confident. Do you remember the night of the full moon, before you passed out? He asked. Sandra, I whispered. Yes, but before you passed out. My eyes widened. Kara said you were mate. He smiled, relief flashed across his face. Is Kara your wolf? I nodded. We are mates, Celeste. Do you know what that means? I looked away, hurt and annoyed by his words. I know what that means. Just because I'm an Omega doesn't mean I'm dumb, I snapped, though my words had little heat behind them. It was mostly shame in knowing he wasn't too far off the truth. I hadn't stepped foot in school since I was 8 years old. I'd only managed to learn to read and do basic math. Hey, look at me. I don't think you're dumb. No one here knows you've got your wolf, so I wasn't sure that they'd taught you what happens, he said gently. I've heard people talk. I turned my head again. Celeste, I need to know. How old are you? I snapped my head to him again. Panic rising. I tried to stand up. I needed to run away. The lie I'd lived for 11 years was crumbling around me. It's okay. It's okay. We can talk about that later. When you feel safe and you can trust me. Please don't run away from me. I will never hurt you, he said. I was still breathing hard, but his touch was calming my panic. I sat back down on the bed and looked at him. He looked so concerned and desperate. I suddenly wanted to touch his face, and I didn't realize that my hand was actually moving of its own accord. I placed a hand on his cheek and felt the tingles and warmth. I sighed when he closed his eyes and leaned into my hand. We can trust mate, Kara said sleepily. No one can know, I said, and he opened his eyes. He nodded. I am 19. I will be 20 in December. They think I am 17. I had to lie. What's your name? He asked. Celeste is my real name, I said, not wanting to lie to him. He looked at me for so long, then looked away, and I could see some hurt in his eyes. I'm sorry. I haven't told. He looked at me with a small smile. It's okay. Thank you for trusting me. No one here needs to know. He gave a deep sigh and then held my hand. So, back to business. I am Alpha of the Crescent Moon Pack. That makes you the future Luna of my pack. Don't worry, we will take it slow. We will only do things at your pace. But we do need to go back to my pack. We've been gone for 5 days and I have duties to attend. And I want you as far away from this place as possible. My mind was going a mile a minute. I was a Luna. I needed to learn to be Luna, but the most important part of what he said was, I was leaving this god-forsaken place. I smiled widely and threw my arms around him. He was surprised but held me tightly and then chuckled. I take it you're okay with leaving this place? Yes, please. Marcus POV. When I asked her if she'd met her wolf, I saw the panic in her eyes. When I asked her age, I knew there was something else going on. She looked like a scared rabbit, ready to leap away. Away from me. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know this girl, but every fiber of my being screamed that I needed to protect her. To do that, I needed her not to be scared of me. The thought that she had to hide her age seemed weird to me. It made me wonder what else she had lied about. What's your name? I asked. Celeste is my real name, she said. I could read between the lines. Her last name wasn't Pierce and she didn't want to tell me. Hurt coursed through me and I had to look away, remembering my father. This girl already had my heart, but I didn't even have her trust. Someone hurt mate. She is scared. We will earn her trust and protect her. No one will touch mate again, Atlas growled inside my head. Right, they won't. I said. I'm sorry. I haven't told. I tried to hide my hurt and remembered that she had no reason to trust me other than a mate bond she felt before passing out. I forced a smile on my face and looked back at her. It's okay. Thank you for trusting me. No one here needs to know. I grabbed her hand, desperate to hold her. So, back to business. I am Alpha of the Crescent Moon Pack. I explained who I was and what my plans were. To my delight and surprise, she gave me the most dazzling smile and threw her arms around me. I held her tightly, breathing in that intoxicating scent of honey and strawberries and chuckling. I'd finally done something right and this was the best reward. I take it you're okay with leaving this place? Yes please, she said against my shoulder. She seemed to realize what she'd done and backed away shyly. Her face blushing adorably. We can leave tomorrow morning. You can rest a little longer, I said, not wanting to let her go. She nodded and I heard her stomach growl. I laughed. How about we get some lunch and then we can get your things packed up? I said. She's good. We'll be leaving tomorrow. Can we get another order of whatever? She's hungry, I mind-linked Jillian way ahead of you. George is already back with more food. I laughed at him. This is why you're my beta. And don't you forget it. He walked in with Maya, the warriors, and another bag of food. Celeste, this is my beta Jillian, this is George, Brent, and Zach. They are some of my most trusted warriors. I introduced her. Luna, they bowed their heads in respect. I grabbed a paper plate and handed it to her. I saw her jump slightly as my fingers brushed her. She feels the bond, Atlas said smugly. She will feel love for us soon. I hope so buddy, 'cause we've already fallen pretty hard and we don't even know her real name. If she doesn't love us. That woman was not Father's real mate. She did not feel the bond. Our mate is different. Like Father's true mates. She will love us. He said with determination. Let's hope. I saw her take a bite of food and she looked a little confused. Is something wrong, Celeste? I asked. I've never had fast food before. I didn't think it would taste this good for something this squished, she mumbled happily, taking another bite. You've never had fast food? I asked incredulously. She shook her head. Alpha Jeff said he wasn't wasting money on omegas, Maya said between bites. We are only allowed to eat leftovers and there's never any leftovers when they buy takeout. I couldn't help the growl that escaped my lips. I knew these girls were being underfed, but this was practically starvation. How many omegas work in the pack house? I mind-linked Jillian. Too many for us to take from the Alpha. I know what you're thinking, Marcus, but going up against the Alpha for mistreating the girls is risky. We don't have any proof and those girls are scared to death. As much as I hate this too, we will need to think this carefully. Back in our territory, he sighed. You're right, but I don't have to be happy about it. Let's get some groceries and slip them to the rest of the girls without the Alpha finding out. Some cash too maybe. It's the least we can do since we can't get them out of this. Let's make it a priority to talk to a few Alphas when we get back. See if anyone will back us up and take this to the council to launch a full investigation. Sounds like a plan. Now, you might want to reassure these girls, because they look like they think you might want to eat them. You've been growling non-stop since our mind link started, he laughed in my head. I looked at Maya and Celeste. They were both looking at me with wide eyes. I tried to smile and Jillian started laughing. It's all right ladies, he barks but doesn't bite, he said, bailing me out. I heard the most delightful sound as Celeste started to giggle. I could feel Atlas running in circles and wagging his tail. He was so whipped already. Atlas corrected. I laughed along with everyone else. At that moment, Dr. Castle came into the room. Alpha Marcus, Alpha Jeff has requested you and the Beta to his office. He would like to speak to you both. I nodded at him and turned to the girls. Why don't you both go gather your things? I'll meet you back here after. Maya is coming? Celeste asked, her bright eyes going wide and hopeful. Yes, since Sandra attacked you both, I was able to get guardianship transferred to my pack. She is coming with us, I said. She gave another dazzling smile. Zack, why don't you go with them to carry their stuff back to the front? George, go grab the car so you can load their suitcases. Brent, you come with us. If this meeting goes south, we'll have to leave today. Yes Alpha, they all responded and I headed out to meet with the Alpha. I had a feeling this was not going to be pleasant, so we needed to be ready to go if we needed to. I was so happy to know that Maya was coming with us. It felt like it would be less scary with someone I knew there. Kara was still sleeping after healing me for 3 days, but I could feel her soft purring every time Marcus touched us. We entered the house. I could feel people looking our way. Where's are your rooms, ladies? Zack asked. I frowned. I didn't want him to see where I slept. This way, Maya said. I'll just go grab my stuff while you help her with hers. I told Zack. Luna, I was instructed to go with you. I'll be fine. It won't take very long. I won't need help packing. I assured him I'll be done before Maya, and I'll meet you in her room. He hesitated then said yes Luna and followed Maya. I ran over to the half bath that had been my room for the last 5 years. I looked at the items there. Was there really anything I wanted to bring with me? I needed the few clothes I had as I was still in the hospital gown. Thankfully, I was thin enough that it circled me all the way around. I pulled a bag I'd gotten from the kitchen on the way here. Carefully folded the 4 pairs of outfits I still had left. Sadly, one of the 2 new sets was ruined the night of the full moon. I was looking for my brush when I heard someone come up behind me. So finally alone. I froze, recognizing Sandra's voice. You have some nerve, taking what's mine. Then pretending to be a victim. I haven't stolen anything. I swear I said liar. First you took everyone's attention. Then you took my mate. I was supposed to find my mate that night, not you. Alpha Marcus belongs to me. I heard Kara growling in the back of my mind. They already know the truth, let me have a go at her. We shouldn't. We will get Marcus in trouble and you need to rest. She's asking for it. She wants our mate. He is my mate, he didn't belong to you. I said. I felt my eyes begin to glow. This time it was me. I was giving a warning. Sandra blinked, shocked by my actions, then she growled and charged me, her claws extending from her fingers. Stop! I heard Marcus's alpha voice command. Sandra could do nothing but obey. You dare attack my mate again? Do you know the penalty for attacking a Luna? I should be your mate, not that worthless piece. She stopped when Marcus' eyes glowed and then turned black. His wolf roared. You will not speak of my mate this way. Alpha Jeff, get this pup out of my sight before I take back everything I said in that meeting. His wolf warned. Alpha Jeff grabbed her by the throat and dragged her away. What did I tell you? Stay away from her. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Why can't you do anything I ask you? Disappointment is all I get from you. I looked back at Marcus. His eyes still black. Where is Zack? He growled, turning to Beta Jillian. I will find out, Atlas. Can you please let Marcus back in control? Beta Jillian said quietly, as if not to rattle Marcus' wolf fragile control. I gulped. I heard running and saw Zack and Maya running towards us. Alpha, you were supposed to be with her. She could have been killed. Atlas roared. Everyone bowed their head and exposed their neck. I was unaffected, so I moved in front of Zack as Atlas approached, worried that he would get in trouble. It made him halt his steps. It's my fault, I said, standing at my full 5'9" height. I wasn't about to let anyone get hurt because of me. He disobeyed my order. He put you at risk. He must be punished. Please step aside, little one. He growled, eyes still zeroed into Zack. I needed to defuse the situation. Instead of moving aside, I moved forward slowly. Jillian seemed to hesitate, as if wanting to interfere, but I held my hand up to him, asking him to wait. When I was within reach, I touched his chest. Atlas finally broke the glare he was giving Zack to look down at where my hand was on his chest. Suddenly, I was grabbed and crushed to his chest. He inhaled deeply and then I felt his arms relax a little more, but they didn't let me go. I saw Beta Jillian eyes wide with shock. Then he smirked and winked at me. I pulled back after a minute. Kara was quick to grumble in my head with the loss of contact. I'm sorry, I said. I told him to go help Maya. I don't have a lot of stuff to pack. I looked up and saw that his eyes were back to normal. He sighed. I would prefer that you have a guard with you at all times while not in our territory. It is not safe otherwise, he said with a pointed look. I blushed. Zack, please load Maya's belongings into the car. We are leaving now. I don't want to be here any longer than we need to. I will help the Luna. I looked back at Zack and mouthed sorry to him. He looked at me and smiled in gratitude. A small growl escaped Marcus' chest and I tried hard not to giggle. So, where is your room? He smiled and I paled.